All right, good evening. Welcome to the August 18th, 2025 meeting, Marshfield Planning Board. Meeting tonight's being recorded by MCTV, and we're holding a live remote meeting via Zoom. Tonight's members here are Katie O'Donnell, Nick Papastratos is currently absent, Fred Monaco.
Here he comes now.
Nick
Mike.
is on now. Great. Fred Monaco, Kevin Cantwell, I'm Mike Viviano, the chair. With us tonight is Greg Eamon, our town planner, and Karen Horn, our assistant town planner. At this time, I make a motion to waive the reading of the notice and open the public meeting. Is there a second?
Second, Kevin Cantwell. Kevin Cantwell, aye.
Thank you, Katie.
You're on mute, Katie.
It froze on me. I couldn't unclick.
That's all right.
Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Thanks. Nick?
Nick Papastratos, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
Maybe that's the second time. Sorry, Kevin.
That's
And
all right.
Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, so a couple minutes until we get to the public hearing with Greg, so we can do
The zoning,
additional
the additional.
changes. Yep. For town meeting.
So the building commissioner, I brought him over the proposed zoning changes and stuff, and we met, and he had asked for several different other things for the board to consider. So I had drafted, he was looking to, on retail and service number 17, boat marina or boat yard, he'd like us to add the industrial district as a special permit. And I didn't have a problem with that. And he also asked if we could add an additional retail and service, towing service and impound storage, and make that also a special permit in the industrial district. That's for Andy's Towing, and they are currently in the industrial district on that site that used to have the baseball batting cages. I'm blanking out on the street number for Plain Street, but so those are two things that he had asked if the board would consider adding to the warrant. So I drafted that up, and if you guys don't have a problem with that, I will submit that tomorrow with those two additional things.
Anyone have any issues with those?
No.
Oh, Greg, you need a vote on that, or?
Yeah, you should do a full vote.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we add the two changes just as discussed. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Thank you, Nick.
Nick Papastratos, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
And Mike Viviano, aye. Okay, you want to do the board report, staff report?
Yep, there's a few other things that going on. There is a group that wants to start a historic, local historic district committee. And they asked me if I would be a member. I don't think as staff I should be a member. They can have a planning board member on it. I didn't know if any of your board members were interested in becoming the planning board member rep on that if it does get formed.
Great. What is the board what's the committee they're trying to do?
The local historic district.
Which district is that?
Architect on that, and they also need a local realtor and stuff. So there's several things they have to have, and then one of the other lists on the list is planning board members. That is still in discussion. That hasn't been officially done yet, but they are looking for potential people to have put on that committee.
So what are they looking to, what's the
They did not have a specified historic district that they were talking about adding, but they wanted to have a discussion about several areas in town where, you've got those houses with the front porches on that section of 139, where you're looking out over the ocean, where there's no houses on the other side of the street. There's a couple of other areas in town that and it may be another look at having one in Marshfield Hills. I don't know what they're talking about right now for districts, but that's what they're going to do is once around the town to see if there's areas that they should have as historic districts. And they can do single properties because I've been reading the historic district state law, you can have single lot zones. So unlike us that we're told we can't do spot zoning, this historic district could have single buildings in an historic district.
Would the owners of those buildings need to agree to become part of it?
They don't need to agree, but they need to be informed and have the ability to speak. So there's hearing processes and maps and all this other stuff that has to be done as part of this. And they basically want as many people in favor of it as possible, because it does take a town meeting vote to get those districts created. A couple of other things that are going on. There's a traffic safety zone discussion now for downtown along Webster Street, potentially from Parsonage Street up to the CVS. I had asked about several crosswalk improvements for that trail connection, especially the crosswalk across Parsonage Street to connect the new sidewalk that Kevin had installed to Red Gull Farm to the existing sidewalk. I've been asked by some residents to investigate elevation grants. I have not heard back from FEMA yet. I don't know if FEMA has money for elevation grants this year. There is also discussion about coming into town meeting with a passive park requirement for Harbor Park. And the DPW is doing required MS4 stormwater changes. Karen and I have been working with them. Their proposal is a general bylaw that one part of it would require the planning board to be the permit granting authority for any clearing of land over 1 acre in size. So that's something we will get you a copy of the general bylaw regulations and stuff. They had just finished with their consultant getting that retyped and changed. We'll get that to you guys so you're aware of that.
So great question on the Historical District Committee.
Yep.
This would be a one-time committee where they identify these places, or this is a running committee?
I believe this is a one-time to create possible district or districts. If you were to come in with another district change in the future, I believe under the state, from what I've been reading, it sounds like you would need to start a new committee. If you're going back to something that they had investigated, you could go back to that older committee, but it sounds like it's a one and done deal type of approach.
And is there any members yet, or is this from the selectmen?
No members yet. It's from the person who's trying to form the committee.
Who's that person?
Carolyn Shanley, is that it, Karen?
Yes, but wasn't it the whole historical commission is looking to,
Do that? Okay.
yeah.
Okay,
So
well,
would it be more like a working group instead of a whole new committee?
No, it's got to be other members. It can't be all historic commission people. You've got this thing that the state wants to set up. Certain parties have to be members of this committee.
But it is like a study group. It's not an ongoing committee.
Right. That's why I said one and done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, we can send you additional information stuff. I just wanted to tell you a lot of things have kind of bubbled up in the last couple of weeks.
and who's spearheading the safety committee off of Webster Street?
There is a preschool over by the Stembeck and Taylor.
Sure, yep.
And there's a mom that drops off kids and then walks across the street or tries to get across the street and then go down the sidewalk and take the other kids to Red Gull Farm while, whatever's going on. So that's the person who I guess started it based on what they saw with the Brant Rock Esplanades traffic safety, which is basically lowered the traffic in the Esplanade to 20 miles per hour.
Okay, sounds good. Give us updated if they move forward.
Okay.
Anything else, Greg?
That's it for me, I think. Karen, is there anything else?
Okay, then we'll move on. I'll make a motion to open the continued public hearing and waive the reading of the notice for Marshfield Hills Estates. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick?
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Fred?
Fred Monaco, aye.
Kevin?
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
and Mike Viviano, aye. So it looks like we got Greg Morris here
Yes,
for this one.
Greg Morris is here to speak.
Okay, go ahead, Greg.
Thank you. For the record, Gregory Morse, registered engineer, Morse Engineering, representing the applicant, Celebrity Realty LLC. I've been before you a couple of times in the past for this project. It's a 10-lot definitive subdivision, Marshfield Hills Estates. At this point, we've received approvals from the Conservation Commission. We've received approvals from the Zoning Board of Appeals. We've gone through the peer review process with Pat Brennan, your peer review consultant, and satisfied all his comments. I believe we're at a point where we can close this hearing, hopefully, and move on. I'm glad to pull up plans and walk you through the project again if you think it's necessary, or answer any questions that you might have.
So I think last we left off, the waivers were the biggest issue.
Okay.
Maybe we could just pull those back up so we can
Yep.
see which way those are going to go.
Sure. Let me open the plans here. We can go through the waiver list for this.
Has anything changed since we last went over the waiver list, Greg?
Yep.
Yes,
There's been
as of today, Greg will give you an update of what they were looking for.
Yeah, there's been a couple of small changes to the plan. The biggest changes that we have is we spoke with Mr. Guimond about adding an access way from this project to town of Marshfield owned land on the north side of the project where my cursor is here. This is essentially a landlocked piece of land, and we're able to provide an opportunity for the town to have access to that. We had talked about access off the end of the cul-de-sac potentially, or access from the start of the subdivision up here. The applicant would like to propose access up here at the start of the subdivision by adding 2 parking spaces off the side of the road and constructing a footpath down along the side stone wall and onto the town of Marshfield property. It would
How
include
big is that, Greg? Sorry, how big is the town property?
the town property is rather large. I don't know the acreage of it. I could look it up if you gave me a few moments, but
Oh,
it's
yeah. How big
several
is the
acres
site?
in size.
Okay.
I'm just looking really quickly at an app on my phone. It's about a little over 14 acres, I think.
Okay. So there's some room back there.
But it backs up to Audubon to the north, which is another 30 plus acres, and to the west, there's some additional town land. So there's a lot of land up there. Yes.
Great.
Yeah. So that access, I put forth a sketch. I sent that in, showing that layout. So we would be adding that to an endorsement set of plans. And then I think I had mentioned it previously, but as a result of the Zoning Board of Appeals process, the project is now connecting to the town water main system. We had proposed wells previously. We're now proposing a connection to the municipal water system. We've shown a connection over to Old Main Street. We've also had discussion about running up Main Street. However, Main Street itself, Route 3A, is a state road. We can't guarantee that we would get any sort of access off of that. So, we're asking for some leniency to work with the water department and figure out the best way to make that connection. But we're committed to making a connection to the municipal water system with either of those routes as determined.
Greg Morris, real quick on that path. Is that going right up against the other people's house that's over there, or do you guys own that house too?
We don't own that house. There's a stone wall immediately adjacent to or right down that property line, and it would run essentially right down that side lot line would be the path. If you bear
That's
with me,
walkable?
it would be 100% walkable. Yep.
I think maybe you might want to also propose some kind of, split rail fence so people aren't just walking onto the neighbor's lawn, the neighbor's backyard, and creating a trespass issue.
Sure, we could certainly look at supplementing. It is a pretty substantial stone wall, though, along that lot line. So we could add some signage there, or if we had to supplement stones, I'm certain we could do that.
Yeah, whatever's least invasive to that neighbor.
Yes.
Maybe, I don't see the wall, so maybe the wall is big enough.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Mike, we did not see the sketch plan for this second proposed access. The one that we were talking about with the cul-de-sac was much easier to get a vehicle down there if we needed to. I don't know about a vehicle getting down this other proposed one, so that's
you mean a vehicle for maintenance of the town land and whatnot back there?
maintenance and emergency purposes and stuff. So
Yeah, because Greg, you'd be talking about doing some kind of path down through what essentially is next to the bridge.
Correct. So this was the sketch that we had put together with the applicant's preferred access, which would be, coming into the subdivision, providing 2 parking spaces, and then providing an 8-foot wide stone dust pathway, which would come down along the lot line here, across a footpath over the wetlands, with a little timber footbridge like you see. And then it would connect onto the town of Marshfield property at this location.
So if it's a timber footbridge, we're never getting a car over it.
You're not gonna, I wasn't aware that the town was seeking any sort of vehicular access that way to that property. I thought it was more for just pedestrian access. But no, you wouldn't be driving a vehicle over that.
you got some pretty substantial grading in there because that's a drainage swale as well, right, Greg?
Yeah, the drainage swale is between the roadway and where the path would be. So you'd be on the north side of the drainage swale with this path.
So, Greg, who came up with? Greg Guimond, who came up with this to get the access to the town land, which I think is a good idea. I'm just wondering who we need to talk to about this.
The Conservation Commission and the conservation staff and I had come up with the cul-de-sac location because the grading was much easier.
It seems like a much nicer way for the town to get in there, and I'm sure whoever's lot that ends up on, they're not going to love it as much, but it seems like a good idea to have it off that cul-de-sac. Greg Morris.
Yeah, it would be a separate piece of town land. It wouldn't be on somebody's property. And there
Well,
was
saying from the cul-de-sac in, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yep.
Because
So
it could be done with an easement or something, right?
So,
go ahead, Greg.
yeah, so the way it was presented to us was that we would be conveying a piece of land from Lot 8 right here to the town of Marshfield and creating 2 parking spaces either in that piece or in the center here for access. The applicant has done similar projects and he had concerns about trespass onto the properties with the new homes with, general public coming down here and parking, having issues with dogs, having issues with people walking onto the new houses that are being built versus up at the top of the street, it's lined up so that if and when a sidewalk ever comes down Route 3A, general public will be able to access it from a sidewalk. Secondly, it's not immediately adjacent to someone's home. It creates a better opportunity up here that's least invasive to the inhabitants of the subdivision.
Maybe it's 2 accesses then, one that's meant for the public and one that is not. And that way the town can still get back to access that land with the vehicle, right where you're pointing right now.
Yep.
And that's just I don't know if that's an easement there or what it is, but I do agree with you. That's pretty tough to want to buy that house down the end with the public walking through your front yard.
Yeah.
But I think it's important for the town to get some, to get some access back there with a vehicle.
Yeah, I think we could probably provide an access easement over Lot 8, for emergency or maintenance purposes, but not for general public use in parking. The general public use in parking, we would prefer to be, again, at the entrance of the subdivision.
Greg Guimond, what do you think about that? That kind of makes sense to me.
I'm going to stay with the recommendation of the Conservation Commission. They liked it over the other place. We had talked about there's several stone walls in the interior. and that we could use the stones from the stone walls that are being disturbed for the roadways and the houses to clearly define that entrance at the cul-de-sac. But I'll
Well, except
leave-
there's gonna be cars parked down there that could be down there any time of night.
it's dusk to dawn for conservation trails. And we would have people right there to tell us if somebody's parked. You know what I mean? They're gonna call if there's a problem.
So I mean, I haven't heard from conservation, but I think, and conservation probably hasn't thought of the two entrance idea possibly, but what are the other,
No, we had not thought of a two entrance idea.
what do the other board members think?
I have some questions about it being like in the stormwater lot as well. I feel like usually we try to keep things out of stormwater lots. And so now having like a stone dust path, you're talking about a structure with like a timber bridge, all of that, I have some concerns about that as well, especially that this is like kind of like a newer proposal too.
So that stormwater parcel here, we could create a separate parcel, which is 8 feet wide, just immediately adjacent to the property line for the purpose of that, and encompass this front area and the 2 parking spaces and put that on a separate piece if you didn't want to have stormwater on it as well. That wouldn't be a problem. We could certainly arrange that.
Greg, my concern was, and now that you're showing this, that swale is gonna be,
Right here.
you don't have a lot of room there between the property line and that swale.
So, yeah, we would tighten this swale up a little bit. This doesn't get that much flow, so this swale gets tightened up in that right here, the 8 feet would be from the property line over. I'm confident you'd have enough room if you tighten the swale up a little bit. From the roadway to the lot line here is approximately 30 feet. So that swale itself, the bottom of it's approximately 5 feet wide at the bottom.
Mike, I would put it to the rest of the board on that one. See if anybody else had any
I'm
thoughts.
still open to any ideas. I'm thinking about the whole thing right now. I think the two access, one for the public keeping away from the houses down the end, makes it more friendly for the people that are owning that house. Again, having somebody walk right through your front yard and your side yard, even if it is just till dusk till dawn, isn't great. But
Well,
having access is.
sorry.
Oh, go ahead. I'm just thinking out loud, Katie.
I guess kind of like to your point too, because I know we're talking about like the public, but we are looking for public benefits. There are a lot of waivers being requested here, and the idea is public benefit of access. And it seems like this access, like you mentioned before, pushes it to the existing land, like the existing abutters. Now the access is right down their side yard. So if we're moving the if we're talking about moving the access to the people who are already there, and we're talking about it like in a negative way, so that these new lots aren't disrupted, that just kind of seems like hypocritical to me. I don't know if
Well, I kind of agree with you, except it's all forest where we're talking about for the old area, where this new one's just going to be basically going through lawns.
well, that old area, but we're talking about those people, it's forested now, but like that's right up to the edge of their lot.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't disagree with you on that.
I have concerns about this. I don't think I'm not in favor at this point.
Of having two or just having none at all.
No, I definitely want there to be access. I think that, with the number of waivers that are requested, I think that there needs to be a public benefit in the public access. But I'm worried about, I think that, with that planning and conservation staff have talked about the access being off of the cul-de-sac. I think we want to give the public, um, solid access here in exchange for the waivers. And with the stormwater, with that swale, and then there only being 8 feet, when you do think about like maintaining a trail, anything like that, like that's actually that can be a pretty tight space for working. If is a substantial stone wall on one side and a slope on the other. I'm not sure if that's not what was like being looked at before. I think it would need to have a closer look. Those would be some of my concerns.
Okay. Anyone else have any thoughts on single access, dual access?
Yeah, I think I tend to agree with Katie. I think just with that existing abutter, closer to Main Street there, I think access along that property line, I think is less than ideal, considering there could be opportunity to go directly into the town of Marshfield property. Just more directly, I guess.
It is more direct. So Greg Morris, if it was down the end of the cul-de-sac and conservation and Greg Guimond were talking about you conveying a parcel to the town, how big would that parcel be and where would the parking be?
We would be okay with that. It would be between lot 8 and lot 9 along this lot line right here.
Yeah.
Um,
And would you put the parking at the end of that into the town land?
the parking would be basically right off the edge of the road here would be 2 parking spaces. And then the path would continue onto the town land. We wouldn't physically construct anything on the town land for parking. The parking would be on this piece where my cursor is,
Yeah.
and we would be conveying that piece to the town.
That would be what, 16 feet wide, like 2 parking spots wide?
I believe it was suggested to be 20 feet wide.
Okay.
So, yep, we can accommodate that.
Anyone else, or we can move on from this one? Okay, so why don't we pull the waivers back up, Greg, now that we have an idea which way you should probably go with that.
Yep. Going back to our waivers, the first waiver we've actually withdrawn. We're going to do sidewalks on both sides of the streets now. So waiver number 1 is not required anymore. Waiver number 2, this is the single access roadway to provide access for 10 dwellings. The subdivision rules and regulations have that a single access roadway can only have access to 8 single family homes. We've requested the waiver because of the wetlands and the proximity of the site. We have to construct a roadway of significant length just to get to the upland at the back of the property. That additional cost and additional length affords the ability to provide access to a total of 10 lots. Lot 1 being at the corner on Main Street in the proposed roadway technically would have access already off of Route 3 or Route 3A, but we found it desirable to have that access off of the subdivision instead of off of Route 3A. It didn't make sense to come off of 3A for that lot.
Okay.
The third waiver or second waiver here was to allow a right-of-way with a cross-sectional width of 71 feet for a portion of the roadway. And that has to do with the portion right here where we're crossing the wetlands. Typically, your roadway right-of-way is 46 feet wide, which we comply with for a majority of the project. But as you know, where we cross the wetlands here, we're proposing 2 retaining walls, one on each side of the project. And it was suggested that we should bump out the right-of-way so that it incorporates the footings for the retaining walls and incorporates access on the downhill side of those retaining walls for maintenance in the future. So we bumped out the right-of-way in those locations, so the right-of-way here would be 71 feet wide in the locations of those retaining walls.
Okay, thank you.
The retaining walls are necessary to prevent encroachment into the wetlands. The third waiver was to allow a dead-end roadway length of 1,439 linear feet. This was again to provide access to the buildable portion of the property, which the lots, as you know, are in the back of the property. You have to construct over 400 feet of road off of 3A just to access that upland portion of the lot.
Okay.
The fourth waiver was to remove the requirement to maintain a 50-foot vegetated buffer between a detention basin and adjacent uses. The only detention basin that we're proposing is right here. We are proposing vegetation along that side lot line. It is not 50 feet in distance. All of the land on the other side of the property line is 100% fully vegetated. We weren't screening it from any other adjacent uses or adjacent abutters. That vegetation is to all remain.
Okay.
The fifth waiver was to allow retaining wall height greater than 4 feet. Again, that's in the location here of the wetland crossing. The retaining wall at its max is approximately 10 feet in height. That's so that we can make the wetland crossing essentially the high point of the street. So that way we can get drainage to slope away from the wetlands and through our stormwater system for treatment prior to then being discharged back into the wetlands itself. So the topography of the site warrants the height of the retaining walls so that we can get the drainage to comply with DEP stormwater standards. The sixth waiver was to allow a portion of the street to not have street trees. We have street trees throughout the subdivision, but the waiver is specifically for this area of the wetland crossing, where we have the retaining walls. Outside of the retaining walls is 100% fully vegetated area. You're not going to be devoid of vegetation in those areas. We're maintaining it. But we didn't feel that it was appropriate to be planting trees immediately next to a retaining wall. Over time, those trees would put stress on the retaining wall itself and cause premature failure of that retaining wall. So we'd be leaving the existing vegetation, but not planting street trees on the uphill sides of the retaining wall. And the seventh waiver was to allow a Cape Cod berm 12 inches wide. The requirement is that it be 18 inches wide. I think you've heard from your peer review consultant, the majority of the asphalt contractors that do the paving lack the proper equipment to do an 18-inch Cape Cod berm. So 12-inch wide Cape Cod berm is proposed throughout the subdivision. To make sure that the road stays the appropriate width, we've added the 6 inches of pavement on each side to the traveled lane. So the overall width of the pavement from side to side remains what it should be in the subdivision.
Okay, thanks, Greg. Discussion on any of the waiver requests from the board? Or Greg, if you have any, Greg Guimond, if you have anything to add, or Karen?
On the majority of these, the staff is okay with. We've made some suggested modifications like trees, the street trees that weren't being planted in that area. Could they be added to the cul-de-sac or somewhere else where there are, because the rest of the site where the houses are going to be, with the amount of fill and stuff, there are not going to be other trees. There's going to be substantial tree cutting in that area for the houses and the roadway. So on our side, we had written the conditions and stuff with those waivers in mind. We're fine with the 2 sidewalks. The things that we were, I think what we should focus on is Greg's email from today of where they felt that there was still contention, which waiver number 1's fine with getting rid of it, and that also drops condition number 20. Waiver number 2, we were fine with the waiver and stuff. It's just, it was more focused on what you're getting. And that's when we talked about the access through the cul-de-sac and stuff. Waiver number 3, sorry, that's the waiver number 3 was the stormwater access. On findings, finding number 4 is we're fine with finding their modification to finding number 4, which I did write in the revised decision. We were not in favor of changing findings 13 and 14. We spoke with the water department again today specifically, and they were saying your condition on number 3, your finding in 13 and the condition is what this water department is specifically looking for.
Can we talk about that? Because
Yep, that's
Yep.
the water main coming down from Highland down Main Street versus going cross-country through the fire department property and then the private property to get it out to Main Street.
Greg Morris, are you
Yep.
okay doing that?
No. What we had proposed was we had proposed some language that the applicant will work with the Marshfield Water Department to connect this project to the municipal water system. We had submitted this plan during the zoning board hearings, which shows the subdivision connecting across Route 3A and over to Old Main Street.
Whose property is it going right through there?
There's an easement. The town has an existing water main through here.
Okay,
So we would be working within an existing town easement where there's an existing water main already to bring in a new water main to this subdivision project. Okay. The reason why we felt comfortable with this was that it limits the amount of work that we're doing in Route 3A, which, as you know, is a state highway. To bring the water main up 3A, I can't guarantee, nor can the Marshfield Water Department, that Mass DOT is going to be comfortable and okay with that. It also comes at significant cost. It is significantly longer to do that, time-wise, as well as physical length of that connection. So what I had emailed over was suggested language that the applicant will work with the Marshfield Water Department and comply with Marshfield Water Department plans and specifications to connect to the municipal water system. Whether it's this path or whether it's up Route 3A, let the water department determine that with the applicant. Either way, the project is being connected to municipal water, but we need to involve Mass DOT and find out if they're even going to let us come down Route 3A.
I understand that. So Greg, you're saying that right now the water department would like to see it go up 3A, not cut across the way Greg Morris is attempting to possibly do it.
Yes, and that's a lot to do with, I guess, it's an asbestos 6-inch line. And they said that that's going to be very expensive for the removal, remediation, and disposal of that piping.
Is that Greg Morris's applicant that would have to pay for that, or the town?
I believe they would have to pay for it, not the
Who's they?
applicant.
Okay.
The water department doesn't want to go there, doesn't want to do that.
So with Greg Morris here saying he's going to hook up to the town water, even though we don't have the exact plan yet, does he still comply under our regulations right now? Because he's going to do it. It's just more of a logistics issue with the town water department.
Every time I've spoken to the water department, they have been firm. They want it from Highland Street up 3A.
And that's going to be on Greg Morris to deal with that on his end.
Right.
So can we move forward with it? Can we move forward with this without knowing that answer?
That's up to the board.
Right.
Staff's recommendation is and we've always gone with what the water department has told us they wanted. So that's what we were recommending.
Well, it looks like there's a little more to it than just talking to the water department because of DOT. Is that correct, Greg Morris?
Yes, it is. Mass DOT gets the ultimate say here, not the water department. So
Definitely is more difficult.
One advantage, because they allowed all kinds of drainage work on 3A further north. Having the water line on the left side of the street gives us an opportunity for the state to put in a sidewalk after the fact.
Okay. Well, I mean, I'm okay moving forward with letting Greg Morris work it out with the water department. And Greg Morris, if they tell you it's got to go up Highland, then you know what happens there. It's going to have to go up Highland at the more expensive cost. But I
Yep.
think it's really between you and them. Board's thought on that? But if we can move forward without really having a plan on the water line. Okay. Okay, Greg, I'll let you keep going through your Greg Guimond, I'll let you go through your waivers you were going through.
Well, this was from Greg's email earlier today.
Sure, yeah.
Um,
But it essentially alleviates that waiver, so.
Yep. So I'm going to put it as we will change the language that it's the water department and the applicant to work out the specifics.
Yeah, I think, you know, if this gets approved, we need to make sure that because it's shown on our plan, we're not saying that, hey, yeah, it goes there. And we're not trying to step on the water department's toes here. We're trying to empower the water department.
That was why I had written it the way it was.
Okay,
As
long as it does that.
Okay, not in favor of, we've already discussed the open space at the cul-de-sac versus up front along the drainage swale. That was finding 17 and 18. Condition number 7, they would like to keep the name as proposed. Staff's recommendation is based on the Historic Commission to use the road name Waverly, which was a sailing ship built in Marshfield. And historically, the planning board, the police department, DPW has tried to avoid using first names on roads and to come up with names that have some kind of correlation or meaning with the town. So that's why the staff's recommendation was to go with Waverly.
What's the name of the road? I'm sorry.
The name of the road is Consolata Lane. It was the applicant's recently deceased mother. He wanted to name it after her.
All right. Any issues going with the historical one?
He would prefer Consolata Lane if that's possible.
All right. Greg Guimond, was this part of the waivers?
This was a request based on the written decision.
Okay. I know that we typically did not want to do first names because they could go stolen if you name it Debbie's Way or Michael's Way.
Right.
So I don't know of any other Ensaladas out there. So I think it's a pretty, it's a nice name. It's not a very common name. So I think I'm less worried about that going stolen. And I wonder, do we really have that big of a problem with stolen street signs?
Not as much as we used to.
How many Guimond ways go missing, Greg?
There are no Guimond ways.
It's because the
And
Guimonds
there's
keep
no
taking
Greg
them.
lanes.
Oh,
I don't have an issue with the roadway as proposed.
sure. I'm okay with the name, Greg Morris.
Thank you.
Anyone else against it?
Nope.
Okay. A nice memoriam to the mother that passed. Okay, Greg Guimond, I'll let you keep going.
Number 8 was we weren't in favor of changing the condition because we didn't want to use the drainage swale as the access onto the town property.
That's fine.
We're okay with number 9, which was revising it from 3.59 acres to 3 plus or minus acres.
Yeah.
Number 13, we will change to say that the applicant will work with the water department on the details for the water line. And number 20, we were okay with the elimination of the condition because they're going to build both sidewalks. Greg, am I missing anything?
That's all I had.
Okay, thanks, Greg Morris. Is there anyone here from the public? I see some other people in the meeting. All right, saying no one from the public. So I
Sorry.
think maybe, well, yep, Katie, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just wondering about like the water line in the language, because I can see that Greg Guimond is trying to, use the language that DPW has said that they wanted. And then now we're hearing about like DOT needing to be involved. And I guess I'm just wondering, like, if DPW is already stating they want a certain thing and the applicant is saying like they want a certain thing, should we be the ones who are specifying it somehow? Like, we're part of the permitting instead of, are they just going to go back and disagree? And is this going to end up in front of us? Like, is this going to come back to us? How are they going to work it out? I know, like Greg Guimond, you had said like this wording is how you were trying to specify it, and I'm just trying to work.
I believe the way we left it, if the water department says nope, no matter what, it's going up Highland, or it's going up 3A, then there's no Greg Morris can't do much about it because it's in the water department's hands. But if they say, okay, well, if DOT does not allow them to do that, then they'd have an option to go look at where else to put it through, such as the old water main that's already across the street. Is that right, Greg Guimond, the way we're writing it? Just to empower the water department?
We'll draft it as it's the DPW is saying where it's going to go. And if there is an issue, then it's up to the applicant and DPW to resolve. And leave it at that. I wasn't realizing that they were replacing all the asbestos pipe, and I didn't know it was asbestos until today, when I talked to the water department. That I thought it was PVC pipe, so I was kind of surprised when I found out that it was an asbestos pipe. But we were not clear where it was going. We knew there was an easement, but I thought it was going through fire department land as well. So
I think we're just
doing everything
to empower the water department.
Yeah, either way, the water department will ultimately decide.
Okay. All right. I think I was just thinking like subject to their approval, not just like that they'd work together. I just didn't want it to be like a two groups head to head, not really coming to a resolution. But it
I
sounds
will try to make it as clear as possible. It's the water department's call.
Yeah. So I think, unless the board has any other questions, I think we could probably move on to vote waivers tonight, couldn't we, Greg?
Actually, the way we just went through the changes, I think we're okay with revising the draft. And you could close the public hearing, and then we would just have the decision, the final decision, or if you want, you could vote on the decision tonight. Because I don't think we have any other issues. If the access is going to go in between 8 and 9, lots 8 and 9,
yeah.
The water department's going to decide on the water pipe. The road name's already taken care of. We were okay with the other waivers and stuff. I think we're in pretty good shape.
So does the board have any issues with the waivers? Because if anybody has any issues, we can vote them individually as well, instead of as one big decision. I just want to give Greg Morris a direction to go so we can get this wrapped up sooner or later.
I think, Fred, were you trying to raise your hand there, get our attention?
Just on mute, Fred.
You did, Fred.
Oh, I have to leave this. I got to close up and move someplace or get out of here. I'm sorry.
Well, that's why I was trying to get you to have a vote before we lose Fred.
Yep. So it looks like, Fred, you don't have any issues with the waivers? Yes or no with your head, I can do that. No issues. Okay.
If I can throw it out there, I'm still torn on the waivers. I know this is something that I bring up frequently, like the public access for the extension of the dead end roadway and like the servicing more than 8 houses. I'm like in other instances where we've had that, I feel like we've seen more significant public benefit than on this proposal, and that's something that I'm still struggling with. So I'm just going to mention it.
Well, why don't we do a vote on everything that's not in contention right now for the waivers, and then we can take those individually and discuss them again, just so we can move forward with the waivers. Because if it fails, Greg needs to change his plan drastically. Does that sound good, Katie?
Yep.
Okay. So, Greg Morris, can you please pull up the waivers just so I can reference those?
Sure.
And then, Katie, just tell me what two numbers you want the vote on, the individual votes on, so I can just go back to it. So it's number 4.
Over. I think I was looking at number 2 and number 4.
Okay, number 2 and 4. Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to vote all the others because none of us are contesting those at all, so that should be pretty easy. We're not going to vote on one. So I'm going to make a motion that we approve the waiver requests number 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Is there a second on those?
As written in your draft decision.
Yeah, there's like some differences with this waivers in the draft decision. That's what kind of I've been going back and forth while we've been talking, and it's been throwing me off a little, I feel like.
Okay, so so I'll take the motion back, so we're not over talking a motion. There's no motion on the table. It was never seconded.
Can I make a suggestion?
Please.
Vote to close the public hearing, right?
Sure.
Close the record. And the one issue I think that's still a point of contention, okay, is it the water line?
No, it's
Because
2 and
we've
4.
already talked about the public access.
You're gonna lose me, guys. I'm sorry. Mike,
Why don't we close it like Greg suggested and we'll amend the decision based on all the comments tonight? And then
Well,
try
we
it
have to
next
know.
time.
We have to know.
Everything together, and then we can have a vote next meeting on the decision.
But we really need to know about 2 and 4. This could greatly change his plan if it doesn't pass.
So Katie, what are the concerns? Is it the water?
I'm generally not in favor of allowing additional, like, I'd like to see more public benefit for allowing additional house lots.
If I may, the public benefit here is this property gets developed in full compliance with the zoning bylaw as residential 1-acre single-family homes, which is in keeping with the surrounding community in North Marshfield. Another public benefit is that the water main gets connected, not just to this subdivision, but the houses that are along the way. So they're getting a water main improvement project associated with it as well.
Greg, let me interrupt you real quick. Fred, do we have you for another minute, or you really need to go right now? Because I'm not trying to hold you if you. Okay, Greg's gone. Never mind. We lost Fred.
Okay. And thirdly is the public access to the town of Marshfield land that doesn't exist now. So that's for the access of anyone that wants to, walk those paths and use that land that the town owns. Lot 1 here, I could turn that house 90 degrees and we could have an access out to Main Street. That doesn't make sense to anyone to do that. So you could cut down the request from 10 houses to 9 on a single access point, but realistically, that doesn't benefit anyone. Lot 2 theoretically has frontage all the way out to Main Street. We could come in with a wetland crossing with a driveway there for Lot 2. Again, that does not make sense to actually do that. It's more wetland alteration, it's more disturbance, and it's another curb cut on 3A. So if the 10 access points is an issue, I can get that down if necessary, but it really just doesn't make sense to do so. But we felt the access, the water main improvement, and development in keeping with the zoning bylaw was public benefit for the requested waiver, given the presence of the wetlands in the fact that you're going to keep all of this vegetation throughout this area. As you drive by here on Route 3A, the only thing you're going to see is one single family home. You're not even going to know that the rest of this site is developed in the back here.
Okay.
Mike?
Greg, go ahead.
So Katie, on my side, we're getting the access where conservation and planning staff wanted to have it. And the one thing that we had not discussed, because it was not a waiver and stuff, but in the draft decision, I basically had lot 2 reduced in size, and that we would be getting the majority of that wetland area, and that we would be getting the intermittent stream in land that would be turned over to the town of Marshfield. And that hadn't come up because it wasn't a point of contention and stuff. So I would add that to the list of benefits for the town. Yes, it's wetland, but it is habitat area, and it connects to not only the 35 acres, 13 acres of town-owned land, but 31 acres of Audubon further past the town. We have a huge chunk going north of open space that we get connectivity with. And we focused on the waivers. We should have been focused on the decision. And for our discussion.
The waivers are very important to Katie, so I just,
yeah,
no,
I
appreciate you
understand
that. Yeah.
But I think we spent too much time going on the original list of waivers. We would have been better off. Where are the differences between Greg and the applicant and planning, conservation staff, and water department? So
yeah. What does it take to vote a waiver? Is it 3 out of 4 right now, or is it 4 out of 4?
It would be a 3 out of 4, I believe.
Because that's all we have right now.
Yes.
Okay. I think we should vote on 2 and 4. I guess we don't need to vote on the others because there's going to be a bit of language change that's going to be handled in the decision. But there's nothing changed on 2 or 4. And with how important that is, if there's one other person not voting in favor of it, then it will essentially change his plan entirely. So does anyone have an issue with voting? Greg Guimont, it's fine to vote just those 2 so we can move forward with Greg one way or another. Greg Guimont?
That's the board's choice. I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have an issue voting?
No, I'm good with that.
Okay. Katie, you good with that?
I'm good with that. Yep,
You good?
I'm
Katie?
good.
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Sorry, I got you, Kevin.
Okay.
All right. I think it's the right way to go to let Greg Morris know which direction this plan's going. So at this time, I'll make a motion to approve waiver request 2 and 4, and the others will be voted at another date as part of the decision. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell.
Okay. We'll go in order, Katie.
Katie O'Donnell, no.
Okay. Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
and Mike Viviano, aye. So number 2 and 4, the waivers pass 3-1 in favor. So Greg Morris, that definitely lets it go in the right direction for the plan you have here. So Greg Guimont, just to be clear, so Greg Morris and the rest of us know we're going to get I'm going to close the public hearing in a minute, but we're going to get the draft decision from you and we'll take a vote from there.
I will have the revisions to the draft decision ready for you guys for your next meeting, and you can take it from there.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
No.
Greg Morris, anything to add?
No.
Okay. At this time, I'm going to make a motion to close this public hearing. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Thank you. Nick,
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
and Mike Viviano, aye. Okay. Thank you on that, Greg, and everyone else.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Me too. Greg Guimont, does that wrap everything up?
That wraps it up.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, I'll make a motion to close tonight's public hearing. Is there a second?
Second, Katie O'Donnell. Katie O'Donnell, aye.
Nick Papastratus, aye.
Kevin,
Kevin Cantwell, aye.
and Mike Viviano, aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Good night.
Okay, good night.